Namaskar.
Namaskar.
You are welcome on the Anuswar Manch. Today I have my author Anjali Manohar, who has written a novel, a very prestigious and very bestseller novel titled God is Not Women. So today we'll discuss about the literary journey of Anjali ji and also something about the novel and her next venture. Welcome, welcome Anjali ji to Anuswar Manch.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sanjeev.
See, this is a discussion about your journey, which
Okay.
started maybe late, but a good start with your book, God is Not Women. So how you started this? Who encouraged you, or how was you inspired for writing a novel?
I had absolutely no idea that I would write a novel. In fact, a friend of mine used to constantly tell me that, I have so many experiences like talking to women, and I should put all that down on paper. And this, I think it was sometime in 2002 when my friend told me that. And I tried at that point of time. I did try writing, but I couldn't write more than one page, and then I was kind of lost. And so this friend kept. I used to work as a counselor in a charitable hospital, and I had a lot of women from very poor sections of society coming and talking to me, and I found that the experiences they had were similar to the experiences that women who were financially secure from what do you call the upper classes had.
Yeah.
And I used to discuss this with. So whenever a woman had a problem, I would discuss the legal aspects of it with a friend who was a lawyer, and he kept telling me, I should write, and he kept on. And every time he told me, I said I could never write a book because I'm not that way inclined. But at one point of time, I said, okay, just to keep him quiet, let me try writing a book.
Just to keep him quiet.
Yes, because he would always tell me, everything you tell me is so interesting, and it's so thought-provoking, and you must put it down. And also the experiences that I personally have had and my friends have had. So I started this in 2015. And once I put pen to paper, I just couldn't stop. It
Fantastic.
was,
Fantastic.
yes, I finished it in 3 months. And actually, the initial story was something totally different.
Yeah.
But I had two friends who don't mind me mentioning this to anybody, that two of the characters in the book are named are after them, written about them. Sorry, not after them. It's written about them. And one of them is my best friend. And she called me up and she said, "You're writing about, so many women, but why aren't you writing about me?" And I said, "Why would I write about you?" And she said, when I told you my experience, you were the first person to believe it. And again, I have my permission to, her permission to say this, but see, she was sexually abused from the time she was 6 till she was about 17. And she said, you must write my story. She said, nobody believed it. My, parents didn't believe it. Nobody else believed it. You were the first person to believe and cry. Because I remember when she told me, one day she came to my house and she told me everything that happened to her, how she was sexually abused by two of her uncles. I started crying and she said, "You're the first person who cried." And she said, "You write." And she wanted me to write it in her name, like to put her name. But I said, no, I wouldn't do that. So I changed her name. So, and one character is Divya. She is based on many women, experiences of many women. So I put that and made it into one character. So it was a book which was kind of very close to my heart, and they were like experiences from their lives, which I have added, as we say, more masala. And
So, from the discussion which you are doing, I note that the story which has been taken in the book is something the original, the real story.
yeah, real stories. It's stories of about 15, 20 women made into so many characters.
Now, when you have 15, 16 characters
Hmm.
and the story revolving around them, the question arises how the synthesization was done in the novel. Didn't you find difficult to synthesize and put it in a novel format?
Actually, at, no, I didn't. It was very strange because once I started writing, it just seamlessly, you know, um, the whole story kind of wove together.
Mm.
So one of the characters, I think Divya, she is the experience of many women. Like one was a widow, a friend of mine who's a widow, and she's a Tamil Brahmin lady who lost her husband when she was 40 years old. And she talked about how horrible her family and
Yes.
society was to her, how they treated her. So that was that. Then the other was a woman who was quite older. She's a friend of ours who's quite older to all of us at that point of time, and how she met this man online, and how he kind of used her to get money from her. So all that experience, I made it into one character. So I wrote about a widow who met a guy online, and the subsequent experiences that she had.
So, do you think, would you say that the 15, 16 characters which are collected in the book had something like sexual abuse in one way or the other?
No, there was just one person who was sexually abused, and the other part, like one of the other characters, the oldest among all of them, Divya, she is about I think a woman who has faced a lot of social abuse for being a widow in
Oh,
Tamil.
okay, got it. So that
Hmm.
was because of her being widow. She had a challenging time before these people.
Yeah, because society considered her as inauspicious.
Discard, social discard.
Yes,
In
yes. In fact, when she used to get out of her house in the morning to go to work, if her neighbors were around, they would go inside the house because it was considered inauspicious to see a widow in the morning.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm not talking about 50 years back, or I'm talking about something which is like 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that people treat the widows like that. So
Yes.
what is the location? I mean, the location where the story takes place.
It takes place in Chennai because
It,
I found that was a city I knew the best.
and the characters which were taken by you in the novel, were they all the urban characters or a mix of urban and rural characters?
They're all urban except for Jhansi. Jhansi was from a very rural background. And this is again a true story. So this is a lady who lost her parents when she was a very young girl,
Yeah.
and whose parents were very well off, though they lived in the village. And her aunt, that is her uncle's wife, kind of used her money to educate her children, but made this girl go to a local government school. And how, when she was about 18 years old, this girl had a friend. She went to college and she had a friend there. And the friend's father was a lawyer. And when he heard her story, he took her to a local counselor who normally we hear about politicians, abusing people, abusing young girls, and kind of taking. But this was a very, very honest man who helped her to get back her father's property. And this girl is someone who has come up in life on her own. So she used the father's money. She went abroad, studied, and she started a life for herself. But at the same time, there's something in the past what happened to her has affected her as a adult, because she never wanted to get married and she didn't want children because she was like, society and life has treated me very badly and I don't want to bring a child into this horrible world. It's more about women, from the experiences in their childhood, how they bring that experiences into their adulthood and make choices based on that.
Sorry. So this was a case of economic exploitation. The earlier was social exploitation or ritualism,
Yes.
wrong ritualism. Then
Mm.
before that, we discussed about sexual exploitation.
Yes.
Now coming to the left out characters,
Hmm.
a
There's
big
just
story
two.
of
One I told you, the widow, and then one is the Jansi, who I told you from
yeah,
her
yeah, got it. Next,
exploited, and
next,
then the main character. So Priya. So Priya is modeled after many women, the experiences of many women.
something like a mod girl,
Like a
open minded,
yes,
or
she was
broad.
an orphan who came up the hard way, who met a rich man, married him, but he turned out to be not such a nice guy. He was into drugs, and how she met another guy who turned out to be even worse. So I think this book is about women and the choices they make in their lives.
Yeah,
Whether to how to better themselves or to get out of situations. And
right. Now, let us discuss about the elements. When you were writing, what kind of elements or raw material you collected for writing the book? Raw material means the stories or the events or the backgrounds.
it was all the stories in my head. And like I told you, the story was going to be written totally differently. But these two friends of mine wanted me to add their stories. And in the format that I had in the beginning, that was not possible. So I made it into these chapters where each character talks about their experiences and then it gets woven into the story.
Oh, that's great. That's very great. So in total, you had 16 characters.
No, I have Jansi, Priya, Divya, Lizzie, and yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So
Now,
these were the experiences of some 15 women who I have compressed into these few characters.
that's okay. That's okay. Now, while weaving the story, you took the location of Chennai.
Hmm.
How you expressed about your location in the novel and how you utilize the locational factors.
Uh, Not much actually, except uh, for some birds and places. I didn't, because most of the writing is about indoors. It's happening indoors or on the phone.
Okay.
Very very little happens outside.
Okay.
So there was not much about location as such in the book.
So, do you find that any of your hobby or passions have been included in the story? Your own hobbies and passions?
No, no.
So it was a true real story of the women, and nothing was added from your side.
Maybe sometimes I feel like the way I react personally, I react to situations. Maybe once here or there, it must have come, but otherwise, no.
That's great. So your novel is fantastic novel. I have read it, but I wanted to hear something from you only, because that will
Thank
be more authentic, and maybe that my connect is different and your connect is different. So I thought I would discuss and reconcile with that. Now, what's the next project, Anjali? How are you going to go ahead?
I have lot of unfinished projects. One is a book on Lord Shiva, which I have completed some 27 chapters, but have not been able to, for some reason, not been able to complete. And then I have another book on sex and the Indian women, which again, because of the pandemic, because I have to do a lot of one on one, face to face. So I've not been able to do that. And then there's something that I got very interested in during the last lockdown, which is about the Dravidian civilization
Yeah,
and the wonders and what a great civilization it was, and how we Indians don't know anything about it. We study about Indus Valley civilization and so many other things, but we've never studied about the Dravidians, the ancient Dravidians. So that is something I'm doing a lot of research on and planning to.
that's great. So your research is important, because then only you write a fantastic and realistic story. So when do you think your Lord Shiva and the other title is going to complete?
Lord Shiva, I think maybe end of this year, and the other book maybe I don't know, because it entails going and meeting a lot of women, especially women in rural areas and from weaker society, sections of society. So I think when the pandemic is on, I will.
So pandemic has become a speed breaker for you.
Yes, total speed breaker.
So what is the? I mean, I should not ask because it's a story on the dashboard, but just by the way, how whatever you can reveal about your Lord Shiva, is it the story of Lord Shiva or something different?
So it's about a personal journey into finding about this God, because when I got married, I was not religious. I was not born into a religious family. We never follow any religious. We follow. I mean, we celebrate festivals, but there was no pujas or any of that. And then I got married and came to Chennai, and I remember I had a North Indian neighbor, and one day she comes to my house and she says, there is this UP wala who's sending God's pictures, and
Hmm.
it's 10 rupees. So it was done very differently from South Indian style, the pictures. It was less colorful pictures of gods. And she bought something on Shiva and Parvati and, Ganesha and Kartikeyan. And I also got some pictures of Shiva. And as I was walking in, my neighbor showed me this. I mean, she showed me something she bought, and I told her I got of Shiva. And she said, "Oh my God, you should not keep Shiva's pictures in the house." I said, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, he's a bad god. He's a god of prostitutes and thieves. And if he keeps it, your family will be destroyed." And I got so scared, I didn't know what to do with it. Anyway, I didn't display the picture. I didn't keep it in my puja room. I just kept it somewhere in some book. Many years later, I was not well. And the doctors couldn't find out what was wrong with me. They did all the tests and blood tests and Dopplers, and then a friend of mine, she said, "You should see an astrologer." And I said, "How is an astrologer going to make this better?" And she said, "Come and see an astrologer." And I didn't even have a horoscope at that point of time. So I called my father. He gave me the time. We got a horoscope made. And then I kept calling astrologers from the yellow pages, and they were charging like 3,000 and 5,000. And since I didn't believe in that astrology at that point of time. I said, I'm not going to spend more than 500 rupees. So I was not getting anybody. And one day I was walking the way I usually walk every day. I see this board which says, a name and Bharatwaj astrologer with a phone number. So then
Yeah.
I call him and I said, how much do you charge? And he says, you can give me whatever you want. People give me 50 rupees, 100 rupees. Some people don't give me anything. So it's up to you. So I said, okay, finally I'll get my friend off my back. I'll just go see him, give him, whatever I had to pay. And then he started saying things which were so true, but which there was no way of him knowing. Like he asked me,
Yeah.
you used to worship Hanuman, but you stopped going to the Hanuman temple for 3 years. He said he was protecting you. And I was like, how do you know that? And he's like, I can see it. And things like that he said. And then he said, you're not well and you're very worried. He said, you go to Shiva temple and you'll be okay. In a week, you'll be okay. I said, how can that be? How can going to a temple make me okay? And he says, no, listen to me, go. So he was a big devotee. I didn't tell him anything. So I said yes, and I didn't go. And very strangely, I started meeting him frequently after that, while walking on the road or going to the supermarket. And
Yeah.
he would ask me, have you been to the temple? Have you been? And after the third time, I said, let me just go. So I went there, and 3 days, you won't believe, 3 days I was perfectly all right.
Oh,
And it
within
was
three
like,
days.
sorry,
Within 3 days.
he told me a week, but within 3 days I was okay. And then I said, let me find out why is this that, so many people talk so bad and there is this man who's so devoted. So that is why I have named the book Finding Shiva, because it was a personal journey and I didn't know anything about him. And then I went to this astrologer again and I told him that, I have this thing of writing, but I don't know how to write and what to write because I know nothing. And he says, don't worry, you will start meeting people who will help you. And very strangely, that has happened.
Yeah.
And I had almost completed this book when there was a flood in Chennai, and I lost my laptop and all my notes and books and pen drive. And unfortunately, I hadn't saved it on Google Drive. So,
Oh,
yeah, so I had to rewrite it, which is why otherwise it would have finished long back. And
yeah.
then after that, lot of, personal things happened. So I couldn't really focus on writing.
So, but is your mind ready for that now?
Yes, it is ready.
So, how you are calculating about end of the year? It can be done in 2 3 months as you did your God is not human.
No, because there is a lot of research on this.
Okay.
I'm writing about the manifestation of the, linga, and lot of. I have to read a lot, and unfortunately, I can't read Sanskrit because most of the texts are in Sanskrit. So I have to get translations, and I have to go to Ramakrishna Math to get certain things explained to me. So it's again talking to a lot of people, and so I feel maybe I can do it earlier, but I'm just keeping this end of the year as a deadline.
Okay. Now coming to your second project, which is halfway, what's the story and goal in that case?
So this is about. So I was reading. So I have a friend who's a psychologist, and I have another friend who's a psychiatrist. And so one day while we were all at a party, they were talking about how some woman had come. Like both of them have had similar experiences about Indian women feeling guilty for having a fantasy while they were married. If they were married,
So
like they felt it was. Hmm?
this is about extramarital affairs.
It is something to do about women and sexuality.
Okay. Yeah.
So that is again, it is a one to one. It is the experiences of many women. So I have to interview. I've got about interviewed about 20 women when we had the pandemic, the lockdown, and this is not something that women are comfortable writing or speaking on the phone. So
But
it has to be done.
how women could reveal to you their secrets?
Some of them, I don't know. I give them an undertaking that I would not reveal their names or anything about them. It would be totally anonymous. So I ask friends to recommend. Friends talk to me and then they recommend their friends. They talk to their friends and ask them whether they're willing to answer questions.
In summary,
Hmm.
not going into detail for the timing. In summary, what do you think their experiences, good or bad, how they felt?
Guilt.
It's a guilt.
Most of them feel guilt.
Okay. And but how they encountered, in house or outside house, within
Uh,
within the relative circle or outside, unknown people.
this is something, in order to tell you that, I have to explain something more, which at this point of time, I don't think I want to.
Okay.
Uh, Probably, maybe once the book is completed, I would be more comfortable talking about it because,
Okay. No issue.
mhm,
I just wanted a flair. I don't want the entire story.
yeah, it is like everywhere, at home, outside, family,
Relatives.
relatives, strangers.
I asked this question only because I have written a book on Me Too, if you remember.
Oh, yes, yes.
Me Too has a similar stories of around 60, 70 stories in the poetic form. So
Hmm.
I also encountered with the ladies telling about their experiences, how they were misused, abused, and how they were impacted by sexual things by relatives, outsiders, and friends. So that was the basic thing that made me to ask you this question.
Actually, there's more to this. I'm actually exploring another aspect, but I don't want to reveal it right now.
Oh no, reveal when you are comfortable. I won't ask that the plot of the book is
Yes.
on. That's great. So now coming to your personal thing, what are your great hobbies and passions?
Um, my hobbies are music, reading. I read a lot, gardening, traveling, which I can't do now. That's about it. And just dreaming, just sitting,
Why can't you
looking.
do the traveling now?
Because I'm very scared of the COVID, so I don't get out of the
Oh,
house.
yeah, that's very important to take care and precautions. Otherwise, I also lost about 6, 7 countries visit during the last 2 years.
Yeah, I know. You
I had a
travel a lot.
I had a target to complete 50 countries
Oh
by
my God.
2025. 37 I have completed. 13 more are left. So in the 1 or 2 years, it would have been possible to complete that. Anyway, God is great. Hmm. Actually, when you go on travels, you meet new people, you see new surroundings, you have a different environment, and you learn a lot when you are writing anything. Maybe your travelogue, if you're writing, or you're writing your memories, or you're writing stories.
Yeah, like everybody tells me to write a travelogue because I have been traveling from 1991 alone, traveling solo.
Yeah,
That was the days before internet and GPS and
yeah.
cell phones. So I've had a lot of experiences, but I don't know how those old experiences are current now and whether people would be interested.
So thank you, Anjali. Thank you for discussing your novel and your forthcoming books on this dashboard. And it is wonderful talking to you. See you again when you write your next novel, when you complete your next novel. And I hope that the publication will be done by us.
Definitely.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, Dr. Sanjeev. It was
Anuswar
lovely
and
talking.
his family is grateful to you for discussing with us. Thank you and
Thank
good.
you so much.
Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.